Hi, welcome to another episode of Modern Education Practices brought to you by Pakistan Primary. I'm Huda Yaqub, and today we're doing something very interesting. Today's episode is all about inquiry-based learning. I had a lot of questions and reviews from you guys that you wanted to know a bit more about it, and here is a very brief but hopefully in-depth video about inquiry-based learning. So first thing that we're going to explore is what is inquiry-based learning. Inquiry, what is it? I mentioned this in the first video as well, right off the bat, when we were getting into IB Basics Part 1. And we looked into what inquiry means. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick recap. It means that you are curious, you are asking questions, and this is not what you learn, it is how you learn. So this is a technique that teachers would use to get the lesson across. So this is a how of teaching and learning experience, not a what. You don't learn what is inquiry as a student. It's implemented in class. Teachers would use it as a technique to get their lesson across, and hopefully the idea behind it is to have higher student engagement and have an effective learning environment rather than having the traditional, which is having your books open. It's a way of doing it, and the basic idea behind it is that you have curiosity that drives the learning, and how that happens is in the classroom you would lead with ideas like having questions. What do you think this is? How do you think this happens? What is this? Have an object in front of them and then drive the question. For example, show them a mobile phone and say, oh, what is this? And they'll immediately connect with it and be like, oh, we know what that is. That's a mobile phone. So something that isn't that isn't flat necessarily, and it doesn't follow the traditional route of take out your books, read this question, and let's answer the questions at the end. So the learning doesn't depend just on what's on paper. It's more of an experience and an exploration, and that is basically what inquiry-driven experiences are, or inquiry-based learning is. Alright, moving on to the second part, which is comparison. So you always have these two methodologies that are in place. You have your first one, which is memorization, that has been primarily the main core of a lot of the curriculums that you have in place currently, because it's just easier to standardize. You have your basic understanding of what you need to do and how you need to get it. It's a very 2 plus 2 equals 4 system, so a lot of the times it's just easier to have it implemented in mass number of students. And this is why I think the inquiry-based system, it's not easy to implement if the teacher is not quite understanding exactly what this means and if it's scalable or not to the extent of the masses or the students that need to actually be able to do it. However, I do believe it has its merits. Memorization, the ability to retain information, I think complements very well. Inquiry complements it very well when it says that you need to understand what you're learning rather than just knowing things. And especially moving on nowadays, you have a lot of knowledge, access of it around you. And research skills and your communication skills and skill-based learning to really know what it means and how you're going to comprehend it and what it would do for you. That exploration is all in the essence and inquiry-based learning. So perhaps where I stand on it, a bit of both is necessary, because memorization does trigger certain aspects in your brain centers that is very important for you to have access to. However, learning also what you're learning, but why you're learning it, how it actually implements into the world, have real life connections. It's all very, very important. Let me know what you guys think of it. Do you lean more towards memorization or the traditional structure of curriculum, or perhaps are you leaning more towards the inquiry-based learning? I've shared my thoughts on it. Why don't you guys answer in the comments below and let me know what you guys or where you guys are at with it. The next thing we're looking at are the levels of inquiry you can have. That means that what is the intensity of the inquiries. The first thing you will have is structured inquiry. That means the teacher is still leading the inquiry and it's very guided. It's very controlled. It's not very open, but however, the teacher is putting the things in front of them. So it's like a more teacher-led inquiry than student-led, and the spectrum basically leads to having a full student-led inquiry taking place, but that's more for the senior students. In the beginning, we teach how to do the inquiry and actually go through the process of learning and build the students up to their independence. So you will start off with a very basic structured inquiry, then you will move on to a little bit more of a controlled inquiry. That means that you're not really guiding them. The students are a little independent. They're trying to find their flow a bit, and I think the teacher chooses topics and identifies the resources students will use to answer the questions. And in the first one, the students follow the lead of the teacher as the entire class engages in one inquiry together. Now, the comparison between the two simply means that in the beginning, the teacher is controlling all the resources and guiding the entire class to follow through with one inquiry or inquiry. In the second one, where it means to control the inquiry, this means that it's now time to explore different avenues and the students are independent enough to actually go through with the process of slightly more independent. The process of inquiry was slightly more independent. So the next one is guided inquiry. The teacher chooses topics, questions, and students design product or solution. Now this means the students have reached a level of inquiry and competence where they are able to come up with the questions, the solution, the projects, the answers, a lot of it just by minimal guidance. The teacher's true role over there becomes facilitation, not necessary. So she or he are just guiding more than taking control of it. So they're letting go. So the whole process is about letting the students become more and more independent and hopefully become lifelong learners, which leads us to our last and fourth type of inquiry. The last one that we're moving on to is free inquiry, which is students choose their topics without reference to any prescribed outcome. Now, what this means is that the students are now independent enough to not actually control almost all of the process. They know the teachers are truly letting them fly. They're understanding where they want to go. So, with given any topic or content or concept, or perhaps even a theme, that what they would like to do. So, there are a lot more. This is not truly student-led. This means the students are in control of their learning experiences fully, and they are competent and confident enough to go ahead from start to finish and actually implementation of the projects or the inquiry. They're able to generate their answers, they're able to express them as well, and this is usually found more towards the senior class in the primary years, which is grade 4 or 5, and hopefully that's what the goal is, to have the students be more into the guided or free inquiry by the time they are almost done with the primary years. However, there is no set rule for which level each child would be at. There are children who are at different levels, at different capacities. Some need to be guided more, some need to be in the controlled inquiry. So the teacher's primary role as a facilitator is to understand and make sure that the students have their type of inquiry present for them. Some might need more guidance, some are more free-spirited. So we have to entertain all sorts of abilities, right? Capabilities. So the last thing I'm going to talk to you guys about are some of the examples. This is a very simple example. This is a grade 1, grade 2 level example that I've done. And I would share it with you because inquiry-based learning, and I'm hoping to get that across with you guys, is that real-life connections are extremely important. And the more you connect with other things, the idea is that you build on, and the constructivist sort of approach to it is that you build on and you build connections, and hopefully you're able to construct an understanding of the world around you. So this means that you have an idea. So what I'm going to give you guys is the real life connection right now, which is an example of something that I've done in my own class. We were doing the concept of exploring the world around us, which is how the world works, or even perhaps you could have it over an overarching theme of who we are. So this is what I did for who we are. This is senses was part of the thing we were doing in science. So instead of coming in with a book and saying, oh, read this page, these are the five senses, and this is what you should do, and learn these, and this does actually come as a part of the learning experience. However, how do I approach it is the main difference that inquiry makes. So I came in with a box. I said there's something inside the box. Can anybody guess what it is? And what is it that you would really need for me to answer to you without you touching it, actually? To actually experience what would be inside the box, so and guess accurately. So some of them ask me, is it light? Is it heavy? Is it can you shake it? Does it have a particular smell? Can we know its color? So what happens is it starts engaging the mind to really start getting curious about it, try to understand what it is, engages the students, and basically understand that students are curious by nature. Children are definitely curious by nature. So that's what inquiry does. And once after the whole process of understanding and guessing, so not only was it a learning experience, it was like a game for them, it was exciting. And then there's this whole process of knowing who was right and who wasn't. So you have to control that as a teacher. But however, if your protocols are in place, all the guesses were right. However, it is in fact a pen or a pencil or a candy or whatever it was inside the box. So and then you highlight that yes, you were trying without using the sense of touch. You used your eyes to understand what it was. You asked about the smell. You asked me to shake it, hence you were trying to imagine what it would sound like. And then you were trying to imagine what it would actually feel like as well. So it gave them this whole idea of what senses actually do for us, and how we process the input we're getting. So suddenly the content is not flat, it's not boring, perhaps for some students who are not generally engaged by just reading. There are those who are, there are those who aren't. So we have these variety of resources and inputs for them that would hopefully engage a wide variety of students. And that is what I mean by inquiry-based learning. I hope this video was helpful to you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.